How you doing, lad?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Just kind of hanging in there, you know. I mean, I've been doing this. Did this what 8 weeks ago? Did SQUASHFLIK TV, and I thought, oh, I'll just do it for fun. But I haven't done it for like 7 weeks because I thought, oh, we'll be back to normal. Nope.
I know. I know. It's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? And I think once you sort of tagged in with sort of the gyms and things like that. I mean, we probably the squash is probably a safe environment for us as coaches in a one-to-one environment. I think we're, certainly myself, you, and a lot of experienced coaches know how to coach in a safe environment, but legislation is creating us for it to take a little bit longer, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you think about it, it's just that proximity has been really close. Fortunately, where I'm at, tennis has started this week, and it was one-on-one with a coach or play with your immediate family. Now we just changed it as of this morning, so you can play with whoever, which is good for us at a club because by the time we open the squash courts, everybody in the club has been into migrating, so squash should be a lot easier to open up.
Yes.
So anyway, that's the way I'm thinking of it positively.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else is happening, young man? I mean, you've been here for 2 years now? 2.5, right?
2.5, yeah. I mean, I can't believe how life seems to, I mean, we're busy, but it seems to just keep flashing by us. And obviously I came over. I always, playing in the States as a PSA player, I always thought I would settle in the States. And, I thought that chance had gone when I sort of got into the Manchester job, and then I moved over to Jersey and, small island, 9 miles by 5 miles. And everyone, I remember a lot of people saying to me actually that you got no chance of developing the squash program on an island 9 by 5. But, we did. I had over 18,000 kids in that program through the schools and the academy, and big program. We had European championships, PSA events. And I just got to the point where I just felt I couldn't develop the sport anymore. We didn't have room to develop court. We had a lot of courts on the island, 15 courts, but to try and get more courts built was virtually impossible. And this opportunity came up in America with Infinitum initially, and a brand new program. And I didn't want to go into an existing program because I wanted to put my own stamp on something.
Yep.
And that was a success. We built that up to over 200 members. That was great. And, I just felt I wanted my own control of my own destiny again. And again, an opportunity came up where I could host my own academy and, do as much or as little as I want to do. And obviously Charlie's playing to a decent level now as well, and keen, and I want to get away with him a little bit and spend time with the family. And, well, I mean, I'm sure I'll have much time with the family, but we tend to be all integrated into the sport anyway. So obviously I've not been able to. I've been doing a lot of legal stuff, getting the visa in place, which is now in place, and obviously getting the new brand and doing the social media side. So the COVID's given me an opportunity of doing all of that, and I'm just itching to get going now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like you're dying to get on court. I mean, I walked past my squash courts the other day, and I was like, "Oh, just to hit a ball with somebody, or be in contact, teach them how to hit the ball right. Teach them something."
I think it makes you appreciate, like, I mean, that's like anything in life. You when once it's taken away, the saying is you don't realize you've got till it's gone.
Yeah.
And I think this is, it just makes you reflect. I mean, I felt very positive about things because, everyone's in the same position. Why am I feeling sorry for myself? Use the time that I have now to spend a bit more time with the family, and and just plan for when it goes back to sorry mate, I'll just stop that. Itching to get back on. And I think a lot of the good coaches who really care about the game, probably in the same position. And, it'd be interesting actually. I mean, it'll be, you know, as you know, Aidan, you know, the sport is growing so fast in the US. I love that. And you know, I think there's probably a massive shortage of quality coaches out there, and that, you know, this situation might make that situation a little bit worse.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I think, you know, it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. So let's talk about your academy. So it's always been one of your life ambitions, just to have your own place. You've had that in different places. You've obviously built some great programs in Manchester, in Jersey, and in Boston recently. So your court is either in downtown Boston or on the outskirts?
No, no, still in Metro West, which is great. I mean, it's a very known club. It's called Cross Courts.
Yep.
You'll be aware of it. You know, they had a very big program there, one of probably the biggest junior programs with Dan Sharpling.
Yep.
It's not seen as much activity there for the last sort of couple of years. And, you know, it's a little bit of a blank canvas, really. I mean, I was approached by Warren Cross, who's the owner, and we sat down and had a chat about the possibilities, and you know, it just fitted both of us very, very nicely, I think. Still very early days, but I think we're very much on the same page in regards to what we want to achieve. You know, he wants life back in the facility again, and you know, I'll certainly do that. But I think it just gives me, you know, this stage in my life just a little bit more. You know, I've always had a good work ethic in regards to, I mean, anything I do really, but, you know, certainly for squash, I mean, you know, it's just a massive part of our family and my life. So,
Yeah.
You know, I think this is just giving me like that real control. I mean, I had that at Infinitum, but you're still working for somebody else, and, you know, their vision might be a little bit different than yours, and there's different ages there, and you know, people have different pathways they want to go and stuff. And I think that was probably slightly holding me back long term, but this has given me a good opportunity. So, you know, it's very close to, you know, it's in close proximity to where I was. So, you know, it's still in an area where I'm living, which is great. The commute's not too bad. You know, and yeah, I'm like I say, I've had unbelievable feedback from people reaching out and saying, you know, we're very excited and we want to be part of your academy, and I just hope that my passion for the game, you know, rubs off onto, you know, juniors and adults and the local squash community.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's go flashback. Who are the two most influential people in your life, male and female, squash-wise?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I think, you know, I would have to. I mean, very early on in my squash, I mean, I hope your head doesn't get too big here, but I mean, you know, yourself, Parky, Marsh, Camps, they were players that were obviously in my age category, but were a completely different level above where I was as a junior. And I think, you know, this is, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but I mean, you know, I think if you look at the level of you as players, you know, you were the best players in the world for your age. So, you know, that England team in 1990 won the World Juniors. You know, so, you know, my benchmark wasn't, you know, my local player in my club. It was you guys as you know, as players. So I think that really sort of, you know, village press, which can't remember the year. I remember watching Marsh playing Kevin Higginson. You know, you guys were around, and I wasn't even playing the game at that time, and you guys were at the top of the game. I mean, this would have been at probably under 11, under 10s level at that stage. Maybe under 12s, maybe.
12s, yeah.
Yeah, under 12s, I think. So, I mean, you know, you played a big part of that. I mean, I'd have to say probably, you know, my mum was, you know, one who kept my feet on the ground and was, you know, I felt very loved. But at the same time, you know, I was, you know, my mum was very strict and tough on me. And I think that helped me with my, you know, my wanting to be a professional player was a big thing, because, you know, she understood the game, and she wasn't soft, and she knew I had to train hard. and that was important at, you know, that's 16, 17 years old. And then obviously, you know, just that era of, you know, I mean, you know, you probably had this asking this question before to other people, you know, two people, you can't mention two people, male and female. There's lots of people, but I think Jahangir, I met him at Prestwich one year, and I think I burst into tears when I saw him because he was my idol, and you know, he was, you know, obviously a complete legend for everyone, every squash player. Even my son, I'm trying to educate him into, you know, he's like, which one's Jahangir now? Is he the fat one? I'm like, well, he's not fat anymore, but, you know, and it's just, you know, the Rodney Martin, Rodney Isles, you know, that era. And I think, Aidan, you know, it's, you know, you think about our generation. Your parents played, my parents played, Parky's parents played, Marsh's parents played, you know, and that's lacking a little bit now. And, you know, I think it's important that we still educate the people that are still in the sport, like us, remember those players. So, you know, I want Charlie to watch Ross Norman, Jahangir Jansham as much as I do Gawad, Shabagi and Farag.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I think you know, you guys were a big inspiration at my age level. I think, you know, Jahangir, the guys who were at the top of the level at that time, Sue Devoy. I mean, my sister was a pro player, so I was exposed to Martine Lemoyne, Lisa Opie, those players. So I think it was a massive combination of surrounding myself with people that inspired me to want to be involved in squash for the rest of my life.
So Nicky, let's think about this. So when you were 17 and I was 17, it came out a YTS scheme where we could become professional squash players and work at a club and go to college part-time and do all the other bits and pieces. Remember that? I didn't think it was possible, but obviously...
Aidan, you know what? I was talking about this with my kids, literally. I probably bring this up 4 or 5 times a month. Yeah, Sarah's shouting in from the lounge here. You bring it up every week. I mean, that was, you had to work 50 hours a week for 50 I said to her, right, I want to turn full time. She's like, well, how are you going to earn your living? What are you going to do? And I went, and she went, I tell you what, she said, I'll put a roof over your head. I'll put food on your table. We'll support you with your first car to get you around. But where's your coaching money coming from? How are you going to pay John for your coaching? And John Lalive, who was my first coach, he was another massive role model as a young professional player. But you know, and he looked after me. He ended up marrying my sister, so he was my brother-in-law. But he's still, you know, it's his job, and you know, when you give things for free, you don't value it as much. So he's like, no, I can't give it for free, but I'll help you out. So I ended up leaving school and working at Warburton's Bakery. That was my first job. Up at 3 a.m, delivering bread till 12, and then going to the squash club and training from 12 to 5 every day. Including Saturdays and not on a Sunday, I had that off, but Saturdays as well. Then this YTS scheme came up. So it was less money, but it put me in an environment where I could learn how a club would run, not knowing that would actually have a big benefit in the future because, you know, you're involved in clubs. You know what the English clubs are like. They have a bar. The US clubs are different. They have a bar. You know, you've got to run leagues, you've got to take results in and stuff, and that's all part of being involved in as a coach as well. So yeah, I mean, I do remember that very well. It was, you know, I remember my parents actually bought me a stringing machine that Christmas. I think I started in September and I started stringing, so that brought in, you know, I topped up another 20 quid a week in
didn't you?
So, you know, I mean, Aidan, it gives you work ethic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, it's massive it's lacking from this younger generation. It drives me mad. You know, I mean, it's you've got to have that work ethic to be able to succeed in life. And, you know, I think there needs to be more of that, but it's probably the days of those, kids wouldn't work for that anymore, would they?
No, not at all. I mean, it's totally changed. And as you said, it gives you the work ethic, gives you the drive. I was fortunate enough to be on my scheme at Harrogate, where I grew up as a kid, and learned from DP, David Pearson, probably one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's where my work ethic and my training and education all came from. And DP gave me lots of opportunities, and he helped me, succeed in life and come over here. If it wasn't for DP leaving Dallas, I would have never gone there after him. And then
absolutely
from Dallas to Chicago. So when I moved to Chicago, you actually won the Windy City Open.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, I beat Gaultier in the final.
Yep, I remember watching that.
3-love in just under 2 hours it was.
Yeah, was it 3-love?
It was 3-love. Yeah.
It was a grind.
I remember playing that match. I mean, it was upstairs. I don't know if those courts are there anymore.
They're not there. That's where the restaurant is.
Yeah. And, I remember he was, I remember winning the first very close after something like just short of an hour first game. It was ridiculous. And he was a cocky little bugger. I mean, he was like, he looked at me, he's like, yeah, 1-love down, but I come back and I beat you in 4 games. And, he was as a young 18-year-old guy, you could see, he was, obviously had the game, but had the, the mental toughness to be one of, you could see he was going to be one of the best players in the world. And he did become that. And, I remember I had another experience with Palmer in Belgium, thinking very similar, where I'd beat him in 3. And it was one of the hardest 3 games, like the Gaultier one. I thought, not sure if I ever want to play him again. And it was a similar thing with Gaultier. So, it brings back a lot of memories. That it was a great tournament.
Yeah, so it's obviously gone on to be an amazing event now, due to Flanagan and his team at the
Absolutely.
One thing you're very famous for, Nick, is your numerous hairstyles. Let's talk about a few of them. I tried looking up on Google and looking at all your images, and there was all different pictures of you, and then there was a picture of Kanye underneath you. I couldn't understand that. So if you look on Google, Kanye will come up.
I don't think anyone would. I mean, look. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a PJ, am I? But I mean, I don't think anyone would have remembered me for my permed or bleached hair in my younger days. I mean, Sarah reminds me of it and laughs at me constantly. But I mean, lockdown. I mean, my hair has been, it's not been as long as this for a long time. I know you like your hair a bit windswept and interesting, but but it's a little bit long now. But I mean, I said to Sarah, I'm just glad I can actually grow hair. I mean, that's at our age, it's that's a bonus. So there's a little bit too much grey in it for my liking, though.
No, plenty.
So yeah, a few streaks in the air, a few perms in the. I mean, it was in at the time. I was in with it, mate. I mean, that.
You definitely have that footballer's look.
Yeah. I'm not sure I look that cool as I thought I looked, but it's just try to keep the hair nowadays is the main priority. Yeah.
Last thing, who are your greatest players of all time, you think, male and female?
I mean, obviously different. I was probably lucky to play in a few different eras, i.e., back end of Janshers through into Power Nichols, and then, as Nick and James and those guys, I hope I had an influence on those guys, when they were younger. I'm sure, there was more than just the on-court, but the off-court as well. But, I think obviously, the greats are always stand in your mind. Your Janshi Jangier, your Power, your Nickel, Nick Matthew, Rami. I mean, again, it would be, I'm a big fan of the game and appreciate a lot of different styles and a lot of different players. So, I think, a lot of respect for Nick. And I don't think Nick Matthew gets the respect that he I mean, obviously 3 times world champion and all those things, people look at it and you know, you can't not admire that. But I think Nick Matthew was an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be unbelievable to win 3 world titles, but you know, no one looked at it. His physicality was outrageous. His ability to volley was unbelievable. And not a lot of people know this, but you'd have to play him. But his deception was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's not like a Rami type player, but he was incredibly deceptive through his movement in his early racket prep. And look, you know, Nick, and I don't know if you agree to this, but his movement into front corners wasn't great. But to try and expose those weaknesses was nearly an impossibility.
Yeah.
So, you know, Nick, Rami, I mean, I remember watching Rami in Manchester back in, I'd like to say 06, maybe 07 actually. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, I was on the front row. It was in Manchester. I mean, he was playing Gaultier. I remember Gaultier walking on. He was white with fear. I mean, you could see it. Mm-hmm. And Rami hit 4 dead nicks off the first 4 rallies. Like, not nicks. They were dead nicks.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God, this guy's like, he's changed the game. Yeah. So I think, you know, you look at, and I mean, you know, I love Ali Farag. I mean, I just love how he came and did an exhibition for us at Infinitum in October last year, and he was just like, you know, him and Noah are very humble people, and you know, he was like, I want to thank you for inviting. I'm like, what do you mean you want to thank me? Like, thank you for taking the time out of your preparations for the US Open to be, you know, take your time. And there's Charlie. Come and say hello, mate. To Eden.
Charlie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
It looks like he's got a good hairstyle going on too.
Yeah, he needs a bit of a cut as well. So, you know, Ali's very, you know, I'm not surprised he's the number 1 player in the world. And look, you know, I mean, you know, I think technically, you know, he would admit it. I think technically, I think physically, I mean, you know, he's probably not high 9s in those areas. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think he's probably high 7s to 8s in every area of a squash player. But that he's very humble, and that, you know, again, you know, you have to have that to be the best player in the world. You can't, you know, look at Federer. I mean, he's just humble and nice, and you know, obviously you've got to have that competitive element to you. But you know, it's, you know, I try and say this to Charlie all the time. You've got to, don't walk in the club and think you're something you're not. I mean, you know, go on with the 7-year-olds, talk to them, take time. You know, never lose that, because you're just losing the ability to, you know, interact with people and stay humble and stuff. And, you know, and look, I think the other thing, Aidan, and I'm going off on a tangent a little bit again, but I think you've got to keep, I want, you know, for instance, I want people around Charlie to pull him up if he's doing things wrong. Like, you know, players will say, look, oh, you know, he behaved like this today. I said, tell him. Yeah, but, you know, you're his dad. I went, no. I'll give you the authority to pull him up, like put him up against a wall with a racket by his throat and say, don't behave like that. Yeah. I know you can't do that, but, you know, you need to, you know, I remember doing that to Nick at the Andy Gill Memorial. I'm like, who do you think you're speaking to? Like, show me some respect. Like, you know, and show other people respect. And, you know, you all have that, and you have to have that. But I think it's about people keeping your feet on the ground. And so I have a lot of respect for a lot of the top players. I mean, I can't just pick one, Aidan. I mean, they all deserve recognition, because you know better than anyone how tough this sport is and how hard it is. And I'm really glad the tour is, Beach and Goffey are doing a great job with the tour, and the players are starting to earn some decent money now, and that, you know, they're never going to earn the money they deserve. But, you know, I'm glad to see that is changing with contracts and prize money and exhibitions and things like that. So, you know,
female though, who's the greatest female player of all time?
Oh yeah, so I think, sorry, yeah, I missed that bit. I mean, you know, Sudi, I mean, Martin and Lisa were players that I remember being in my sister's house, And I was like, I recognised those players. Who are those? And it's like, oh, Nick, do you know Martin? Do you know Lisa? And I'm like, oh my God. So they were like the best players in England, 1 and 2 in England for, back in the late 80s, early 90s. So that was, I was around those guys a little bit. I mean, my mum actually used to make squash kit for Martin Lemoyne. So she had a squash Prima sportswear. So she used to make for a few of the players. Mm-hmm. And then, Sue Devoy, I met her at a couple of tournaments my sister was at. Fitzy, who, I was sort of very close with him, friendly with from a, I mean, slightly older and at the top of the game before me, but I mean, again, just a lovely girl and just a brilliant player. Nicole David, again, one of the most humble people you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Just a lovely, lovely person. And, this generation of Egyptian players who, again, just seem to be like just unbelievable human beings, but just unbelievable players. So, I mean, I fear for, the Egyptian model is a bit of a scary one for world squash because, we don't want 10 Egyptians in the top 10. I mean, it wouldn't be good for the game.
No.
So, I would hope that, in the future that, more players will get exposed to, that Egyptian style of training, which is traveling there. And, a lot of the Egyptian and Pakistanis came to England in the 80s and the 90s. I think that might change and players might then travel and spend, 2 to 3 to 4 weeks at a time in Egypt. And, I'd certainly be keen for Charlie to go and be exposed to that once things settle down. That's definitely on the agenda.
Yeah. All right, Nick. Well, thanks for talking. It's great chatting with you. And
you too, man.
Good luck in your new adventure. And
thank you.
Success. Everything you've touched turns to gold. So it's going to be good for you as soon as we open.
No, I appreciate it, and it's nice to be. I think this has probably brought. I think I've seen you on 3 or 4 occasions since I've been in the States, but I mean, we probably don't keep in contact like we probably should.
Yeah.
But I think that's brought players together a little bit more, and sharing maybe a few ideas and a bit of banter and this sort of thing, which I love doing. So. Yeah, no, I mean, good luck, mate. I hope you're back on court soon, and I can't wait to get back started, and I'm very excited for inspiring the next generation of US players in Boston.
That's right. All right, Nick. We'll take care, and we'll chit chat soon again. Enjoy.
Yes,
See you.